employment in the UK.
Are the headlines telling the whole story? Sean is a games developer in Cambridge for us now. Good morning.
Morning, yeah, I've come to the gaming cave. Yes, they do have one here. There's even gaming cave rules that people have to abide by here. And that's because there's lots of testing that goes on by the cavemen and women of Jagex, where Dave Lomax is in charge of recruitment here. Dave, we've been talking about the jobs market all morning. Very different picture across the country. For you guys, it's about difficulty in recruiting the people you need in the UK. So what needs to happen in the UK for you to be able to get the developers that you need?
I think for the UK, it starts at education, same with a lot of things. It's about letting the kids know that video games is a viable career choice. There's a whole host of skills and kind of professions that you can choose that fit within our industry. And there's an opportunity there for kids.
And Dave, I'll let you carry on monitoring your team and how they're doing this morning. It is a really complicated picture. You got Mike and Maggie playing very hard there this morning, but if you work in very different sectors across the country, the picture can really be quite different.
The most recent figures showed that the unemployment rate is at its lowest since 1974, and the number of people in work is at a record high, but some industries are doing better than others. Last year, 70,000 retail jobs were lost on the high street, and the car and steel industries have suffered as well. And some experts claim the numbers hide some worrying trends. Although record numbers of people are in work, it's estimated around 10% are in less stable forms of employment, like zero-hours contracts or agency work. And the jobs bonanza isn't evenly spread across the country. 1 in 3 new jobs created in the UK over the past decade has been in London. So a lot of people are in work, but not everyone's feeling the benefit.
I've come back into the live streaming room now to talk to Kate Shoesmith from the Recruitment Employment Confederation. Hi, Kate.
Good morning.
Having a bit of gaming while we were in the other room?
Just a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Now, it's a very different picture. We've seen there different sectors. It's not all booming like the tech industry is here around Cambridge. So what is it that you see that's going on in recruitment at the minute across the country? If people have lost their job in retail, what should they be thinking?
So exactly that. There are a decline in some of the roles in retail and construction. That's what recruiters are telling us. But in the top end, engineering, IT, they're still recruiting quite strongly. So it's a case of looking at what's available in your local region, but also having that ability and willingness to maybe travel a bit and think about whether there's something that you could do to upskill, train, look at apprenticeships. The demand is really high for those places, so competition is quite stiff, but it's a case of having those conversations with your local colleges, local employers to see what's available for you.
Willing to travel a bit. I mean, for a lot of people that means a lower standard of living than you might have been used to beforehand. Are you starting to see people have to make big sacrifices to stay in work?
No, not yet. Wage inflation has obviously been quite low. One of the things that does happen, that if you move jobs, that's where you do get some uplift. So starting salaries are still increasing if you move to a new permanent job. Also, if you're working in temporary work, hourly pay rates are still going up because the demand is so high for people still.
One thing about the tech sector, just you see it a little bit here, but also we've seen it when we've spoken about the industry wider, for women to get involved in the tech sector. Is it as difficult as it seems? Because it seems to be dominated by men.
It's definitely dominated, but there are studies that show that actually there are more women gamers than men, and there's initiatives that have been set up.
Playing the game.
Playing the actual game.
Right.
So obviously you want women to also be creating and developing those games, and there's some initiatives that have been set up. So Women in Games jobs has been set up by recruiters specifically to encourage young girls to think about technology and gaming as a career of the future. Interesting.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about how we might get into the gaming sector a bit later, how you might become one of the developers, particularly if you work in retail or with the steel industry or the car industry, and you might think this isn't an industry for me. There's some interesting routes into the tech sector. You don't necessarily have to be a gamer from a young age playing games like what we've got RuneScape here this morning.
You are watching Breakfast from the BBC. Still to come this morning, Sean is having a look at job figures this morning and why the headlines may not tell a full story. And he's gaming as well, isn't he? Morning.
Morning. I'm not doing as much as these cavemen and women in the gaming cave this morning here at Jagex. I'm in Cambridge, where the tech industry is booming and they're actually struggling to recruit the skills that they need. I'm going to be looking at how you might make the change from a sector like retail or the steel industry or the car industry and go into the tech industry, because The employment picture is not a straightforward one across the whole country. There's lots of different figures, lowest unemployment rate since the 70s, but yet so many layoffs in the last few weeks and months from big companies around the country. So what's going on? We'll have a look. But first, before all of that, we'll get the news, travel and weather in whichever fantasy world you're in this morning. Okay.
Are the headlines, though, telling the whole story? Sean is having a look at exactly that at a game developer in Cambridge who are currently on air. Really?
Yes, we really are on air, because actually, morning everybody, one of the big parts of video games these days is it's streamed live. This is the live streaming room here at Jagex in Cambridge. We're in Cambridge because the technology sector is booming here. They can't recruit as quickly as they'd like to. They've got 50 vacancies here in the technology space. But as we've been talking about all morning, that isn't the picture right across the country. So we have the lowest unemployment rate that we've had since the 1970s. Yet, the last few weeks we've had headlines from the steel industry, the car industry, retailers, all saying they're laying off thousands of workers. So what is really going on? That's why we've had Kate and Nina with us this morning to chat through what's going on in the wider market. Morning again to you both. Nina, start with you. When you look at how the UK economy is doing, low unemployment rates, but loads of headlines saying thousands of jobs going here or there. What's going on?
I think there's been a lot of contradictory data out lately. So yesterday we had the latest GDP release, which was overall quite negative. And then in about 15-20 minutes, we'll have the UK labour market data, which I actually was going to think is going to be relatively positive. So
that's the difference between the size of the economy and how the jobs market is going.
Yeah, I think actually, ironically, a lot of the uncertainty, the Brexit-related uncertainty and so on, has actually had a positive impact on the employment figures. I think a lot of companies see hiring more workers as a relatively risk-free and reversible way to expand. It's certainly more flexible than something like investing in new technology, in new systems. So I think a lot of companies that have been looking to expand recently have chosen to hire people because it's a decision that's more easily reversible down the line.
That's interesting. Kate, when recruitment is what you focus on a bit, how do you see that knocking on into the number of vacancies, where those vacancies are?
We definitely see that there are jobs vacancies, so the rate of job vacancy growth has still been going up. And actually, one of the things that we're seeing is employers telling us that they still have skill shortages, but there are variations across the economy. So actually last month, the north of England was hiring faster than the rest of the country, which was an interesting parallel for us. And London was actually seeming to be contracting. So there's a definite variation depending on where you are in the country.
Interesting, and that skill shortage is actually something that's an issue here. Thanks both, thanks for coming along this morning. So, skill shortage in the tech sector, all these guys gaming. Emma is actually gaming on the app. We've got Matt playing, it is Matt, isn't it? James playing, I knew I'd get one wrong. James playing on a laptop, it's all PC based all this morning, and these are all people that at some point maybe Dave has recruited as head of HR recruitment here. Dave, morning again.
Morning.
Is there a way, if we take the retail, for example, where we've seen 70,000 job losses last year, fewer roles, is there a way to make a move from the retail sector to the tech sector?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not easy, but there are opportunities to be able to get into the games industry. So an obvious one would be something like customer support, really transferable skills from retail to come through into the video games industry. And then what we do as an employer is we try and invest in those people. If you're talented, if you're passionate about being able to build a career, then we'll invest in you. I mean, I started in customer support before I moved on to the work that I do today.
And now you've got a load of staff you need to recruit. Dave, thanks for having us this morning. Let you get back on with your gaming. So it is possible. You can make the transfer from these different sectors. A lot of people will see these games and just think this is just what's taking up my kids' time at home, but it's a massive booming sector. And it could well be the future for a lot of employment. But that's it from us this morning in Cambridge. Now for a bit of news, travel and weather wherever you are.